You don't change your life by forcing new habits or repeating new thoughts. You shift it by changing the identity that's running everything beneath the surface. Identity is the quiet driver of your entire field. And when it shifts, your entire reality shifts automatically. Not slowly, but instantly. And this is because the field reorganizes the moment the identity relaxes or lets go. Most people are fighting their outer world, when actually the thing directing the whole movie is sitting silently inside. So let's get started. But before I do, I want to remind you this channel is about presence, freedom, and the real mechanics of creation. So make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification if you're getting any value out of these videos. So with that said, let's get started. We try to change our lives by changing our thoughts, actions, and motivations, but the identity underneath always snaps back. And this couldn't be further from the true in my case and so many clients' cases. I spent years trying to change things in my reality. I tried to change my money reality, my dating reality, my health reality by changing the outside circumstances. But even when I did get a little bit of change, it always snapped back. I'd go work my ass off to meet women. I would go learn lines and routines and anything I needed to learn to get better at meeting women. And yeah, I'd get out there, I'd push a little bit, I'd meet a girl, but almost every time, I would end up losing her. There would end up being a breakup. I'd have my heart broken. It'd all fall apart again. And it just didn't seem to be changing. With my health, I had a lot of autoimmune disorders. And I thought if I just got the right diet or I just got the right pill or the right supplement, that would fix it. But that never worked either. Matter of fact, I can't think of one supplement that really had a dramatic effect. Yeah, some things got me a little bit better. Certain diets definitely held it at bay. But as soon as I ate the wrong food, I was in trouble again. The next thing was my money reality. You know, for a long time, I was broke and I could not make money to save my life. Matter of fact, when I thought about making money or I went to try to make money, I lost money. It wasn't until I started doing the internal work that everything changed. Now, some things weren't as deep. I don't think my money reality was all the way down completely in the causal level or the identity level. When I first started working on my money reality and really took it seriously and started doing affirmations and started working on my belief systems around money, my money reality shifted fairly quickly. I started making more money quicker than I expected. I thought that would be a real difficult one. On the opposite, though, was my dating reality. My dating reality did not want to shift. I had to work my ass off to get the littlest growth in that area. And I had to go real deep into my belief systems to make that happen. When it came to my health, it was the same thing. I was able to get a little bit of results from doing the outer work. But to really make that shift where my body was healing, where my body felt really good, where it started to become energized and healthy, I had to get down to that identity level. Now, what is this identity level? That identity level is who I believe I must be in this reality. Like I can't violate this or everything will fall apart. This is who I am. That's what's at the core of the identity level. And that's this level right here. If we look at this chart, I talked about it in my last video. So if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. On the outside, we've got the physical. This is all the physical stuff you've got in your life, all the money you've made, the business you built, the relationship you have. And when you go out to hustle to make a change in the physical world, this is the area you're working on. The energetic is your internal world. That's what your thoughts are, your images, your feelings. And this world here is the blueprint for this world here. You could say the physical world is an echo of that energetic world. I go deeper into that in my previous video, so definitely check that video out. At this level, we got the intentional level. This is the core intentional level. This is the identity level. This is how I personally, Brian, started to define myself at a young age. I came from a family that had a lot of medical issues, that had a lot of autoimmune disorders. I grew up around that. It's no wonder I got autoimmune disorders, and no wonder they're so hard to change. I didn't know any other way of being. My earliest memories from childhood were me being really sick. I remember all the other kids had all this energy that I didn't have, and I didn't understand it. And I'd see them all get up for Saturday cartoons, excited to watch cartoons, and I would still be sleeping. I wanted to sleep all the time. I was often antisocial because I felt like crap, and I just didn't know what was going on in my body. But if I look back at my grandparents, they were the same way. If I look back at my mother, she was the same way. This was something that was passed down generationally. And then the next belief becomes that it's genetic, right? Now, though, this is a genetic condition, I can't do anything about it. Well, none of that was actually accurate. It was very far from the truth. And I'm going to show you why here in a little bit. So this identity level is tough. Even my money was to some degree programmed at the identity level. Some of it I was able to change early, but to really make big movements and deal with money on a larger scale, it was total identity. When I first started to learn to let go and process subtle emotions, they helped a lot. But it wasn't until I started to get real deep to the core of my identity that they started to have a real effect. That's what I want to talk about here today. And there's many ways to work with your identity and to do identity shifting. And I'm going to get into some of those other ways on this channel too. But this is just one thing I want to present today so we can help you to start to understand this better. And as I get into more videos, I'll take this deeper. But if we look here, we've got the I am in the center. The I am in the center represents the now. This is the now moment. I am. There's nothing after that. I am. I am. If there's nothing after that, that is the now. I am right here, right now. I am that I am. I am in this moment right now. There's no future. There's no past. Now I can say I am Brian, hanging out filming a YouTube video in Turkey. Now we're adding a story, right? I am Brian from the United States that has X amount of money and is white and has blue eyes. You know, that's another story. I mean, yes, it's true. I have a physical body like that. But then the deeper question becomes, as I look at this I am and I strip that away, is that 100% true? Or is that something I'm identifying with in this lifetime? If we look at the physical world as a printout of the energetic world, and that the physical world is temporary, that we have energetic bodies, and I do believe we do. I believe we exist beyond this physical world. We're going to exist after we pass away. And I believe we existed before this life. And I believe this body is just a story too. Now, whether this is true or not, and in these videos, I'm going to try to present and show you how real this, I think this is. And I think we can really have a deep discussion about this. But for the sake of this video, let's just assume we don't know. And let's play with the idea for a moment that if you believe this at a core level, it's going to benefit you. It's just like taking radical responsibility for your life. If you take radical responsibility for everything that comes into your life, even if there's no way this car bumped into me from behind, how did I create that? If you take radical responsibility for everything, that gives you a lot of power in the world to create any reality you want. If I created this, I can create something else. So it's the same thing here. If I can start to recognize that I am something much deeper than this body, that there is an identity inside of me, or not an identity, a beingness inside of me that is creating this identity, or is bringing this identity into being, this consciousness, that if you didn't have this consciousness, this identity couldn't even exist. It would just fall apart or cease to exist. It's like if somebody stops telling a story, does the story just vanish? It does. If somebody stops repeating the story, does the story go away? It does. The story stays alive because of the investment from consciousness, and you have consciousness inside that body. So to change at an identity level, we want to get to this level right here. When we start to be able to feel this level more and more, the I am that is, your beingness, your isness, this identity level starts to become easier and easier to change because you don't take it as personal. You don't see it as real anymore. You start to separate it from it. It's called the law of relativity. As you develop relativity and you start to expand out and see the bigger picture of how things work, it becomes easier to change something inside. For example, if you're just looking at one part of a car and you're trying to understand how that one part works, and you're trying to fix the car based on that one part, but the problem is in another part of the car, then you're not seeing the whole picture. You're not seeing the whole relative nature of the problem. And as you do this with consciousness, as you back your consciousness up and begin to see the big picture, everything changes. So how do we do this? We start to meditate on the I am. There's a part of you that's been inside of you since the day you were born. And I want to take you back to that. a part of you that hasn't changed, that is. There's a part of you that's been inside of you that's never changed, that has always been the same. And that's getting closer to who you really are. So if you take a moment and you think back to when you were, say, 5 years old or 7 years old, can you feel that part of you that feels exactly the same then, felt exactly the same then as you do now? You can shut your eyes and take a moment. I can remember this time being in grade school. I was actually probably right around kindergarten. And somebody asked me, how long have you been alive? I was really young. Maybe I was kindergarten. And I said, I don't know. And they said, well, think about it. How long you've been alive? And I think I said, I don't know, 100 years. And something like that. And I can remember this moment. And they said, no, how old are you? And in that moment, it clued in. Suddenly when they said, how old are you? Oh my God, I'm 5 years old, or I'm 6 years old. I'm not. And then I spent the whole day kind of contemplating this. I think I always had this nature. How could I be 6 years old but feel like I've been around forever? Feel like I'm 100 years old? And if I go back and feel that part of me that was contemplating in that moment, I can still find that part of me inside right now. That stillness, that part of me that was observing that moment, that was curious in that moment. He's still here. He's never gone away. And that's getting closer to who I really am. My body is completely changed. My personality is completely changed. Everything I know about the world is completely changed. But that part of me is still there. And I think you have that inside of you too. So with that said, I want to take a moment and help you develop this a little bit more. Take this to the next level. So I want you to just take a moment and close your eyes. And I want you to take a few breaths. And these breaths are going to be very simple. You're going to take 4 count in and a 6 count out. Do 2 more of those. 4 count in and then a 6 count out. And 1 more of those. 4 count in and 6 count out. This starts to relax the nervous system and drop you lower in your body. And so now I want you to take a moment with your eyes shut and just begin to notice your senses. What are you hearing right now? Begin to notice what you're seeing, even with your eyes shut. Sometimes we get images and flashes. We get images on our mind's eye, memories. So just observe what you're seeing. So hear what you're hearing, observe what you're seeing. Now notice what you're smelling. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe there's a scent in the air. Notice your taste. What's the taste like in your mouth? And then notice your body and the weight of your body on the chair. And notice what that feels like. The temperature of the room, the weight of your body. Just start to tune into sensations, physical sensations. And then now tune into your thoughts. What are you hearing internally? Notice what thoughts are going by and just start observing all of this. Now realize you're not your thoughts. Your thoughts come and go. They change day to day, moment to moment. So how could you be your thoughts? So just start to notice the part of you that's observing your thinking. Notice you're definitely not the sounds outside of yourself, but you can listen to those sounds come and go. If there's a sound in the distance, that sound changes. You might be hearing the sound of my voice, but an hour from now, you'll be hearing something else. So you're definitely not the sounds outside of yourself, are you? So continue to listen to the sounds outside of yourself come and go. And if you're not those sounds, and you're not your thoughts, who are you? Notice what you're seeing with your eyes closed. And who's seeing with those eyes? Because if those images change, come and go, well, then you're not those images either, are you? So notice what that feels like. Now let's do the same thing with the sensations in your body. Begin to feel your body. Maybe it's the weight of your body, maybe it's the temperature of the air. But again, all of that changes. So how can any of that be you? So now notice the part of you that's observing all these sensations, all these feelings. The temperature of your body, the weight of your body, maybe it's the clothes on your body. My voice, it's listening to my voice. Hearing your own thoughts. None of it is you. So who's the you inside observing all of this? Who's the you listening? Who's the you seeing? Who's the you being right now? And if you were able to let all this go, could that you still exist? Still be there, observing? Can you ever remember not being this observer part of you? And just notice what that feels like. And now take a moment and just allow yourself to remember this feeling. Because as you begin to work with your identity, being able to tune into this part of yourself is essential. Because the core problems you're experiencing in life right now are not part of this observer's reality. The observer sees it, experiences, but it comes and goes. The observer is beyond all of that. So now allow your eyes to open, and again look around the room and realize none of that is you. That all changes, it comes and goes, and just observe it and notice what that feels like. And notice what that feels like. And now, let's close the eyes one more time. Let's go back in for a second. And I want you to ask yourself, what's the identity I'm holding right now? What's this core story that drives my reality? The core story that I've been trying to change. It might feel like pressure. It might feel like a little hum in the background of your mind. It might feel like this persona you have to put on and be every day when you wake up. And if you could let that role collapse right now, even just for a moment, if you could drop the story, the name, the history, and drop all the pressure it's been pushing on you to live out that story, who would you be? Notice what remains. See if you can feel that quiet awareness again. Now one more time, let's revisit that identity. Bring that identity back up. Invite it back up. What is this core story, this core pressure that drives you? Maybe it's around money, maybe it's around relationships or health. What's the story of your life that defines you? Feel the pressure of that story, the weight of that story. Notice where you feel it on your body. And if you could drop that story, you could let that story collapse even for a moment, like taking off the weights. Maybe they're on your shoulders and you drop them. Maybe you drop the name that goes with the story, or the way you feel about the name. You drop the history, you drop the pressure. Notice what remains. Notice that quiet awareness deep inside. and take a moment and welcome forward the real you. Now take a few more breaths and come back to the room when you're ready. Begin to open your eyes. Just start to notice how everything looks different. Now, I definitely am going to want some comments on this one. I'm really curious what you're experiencing. And I want you to think about this. Have you been trying to change your life, change who you're being while holding on to this identity? And how has that worked so far? This is like trying to change a movie by yelling at the screen. And I know there's some people that do that. I think that's hilarious. But the real part of you is much deeper inside. And if you change that part of you, if you go all the way to the projector and make the change there, that's where the real change happens. That's where the movie changes. I would really appreciate it if you drop a comment in. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you felt, what you experienced. We all grow and learn from those comments. So I look forward to reading them. I always check them out the first week they come out. And definitely check out my third video in this series. It's going to be teaching you how to start to shift your state instantly. Not start to, but to actually shift your state instantly. There'll be a link somewhere for it on the screen. And with that said, remember, your presence transforms your reality. See you in the next video.